which we want to maximize on either side of the house. Firstly is going to be regarding your desire to debate, right? I think as debaters, we enjoy debate for a few reasons. One is because we like the intellectual sport of coming up with ideas. We like seeing motions that we didn't know what was going to happen, and then coming up with the cases and just being able to actually engage in the activity of debate and being able to then like come up with ideas and see how well your cases fare against other cases. This is regardless of whether you are a weak or strong debater. I think because your success in debate and how you feel about your success in debate is particularly relative, right? And I think this is also going to preempt any arguments from opposition regarding like your self-esteem being bruised or stuff like that. As a debater, I think you get used to your performance and perceive it as relative to yourself, meaning that if you are regularly bottom tabbing at tournaments, you're probably going to continue to expect bottom tabbing, and you're not going to be like very sad every single time that you bottom tab, because that becomes an expectation for yourself. Similarly, if you're regularly top 10 at tournaments, you're not always going to have a very like high image of yourself being like, oh, I'm like super great at debate, because that becomes the expectation that you set for yourself, like, oh, I hope to do well in this debate, and I hope I do well. Rather, you are more likely to compare yourself between performances, right? So meaning that if I'm a weak debater and I like score a certain level of speaks at this tournament, or like my perception of my case was very strong and I was proud of my performance, I'm going to compare that to other times where I was less proud of my performance or more proud of my performance. It's not going to be like, I'm not going to be comparing myself objectively based on my ranking, but rather subjectively based on my perception of my performance. The second thing that I think that we want to characterize as you care about debate is the community of debate, right? You're typically surrounded by like-minded people who like very talented people in debate clubs, I feel, who enjoy thinking and who enjoy seeing things from different perspectives. So outside of the competitive aspect of debate, we enjoy debate because we are able to encounter other people that also enjoy debating and discuss debates with them afterwards. We can discuss life with them afterwards on 3-hour car rides to other tournaments, right? We enjoy the community aspect of debate because it allows us to create these meaningful relationships, and this is particularly important in a university environment where many students become estranged from their initial friends that they had coming in from high school and require a sense of community in order to actually feel like they fit in, to have something grounding them regarding, I feel like I'm a part of this school community or this university community. So to the extent we very much enjoy the community aspect of debate because we love having friends and we love hanging out with our friends. What then is one of the main things that we want to talk about in debate? I think, like, on either side of the house, I think it is reasonable to assume that even the weakest debater is not going to automatically quit, right? Like, if I'm the weakest debater, but I like still enjoy debating, because I am able to find the community aspect in debating, and because I joined debate probably because I like enjoy the aspect of being able to like contribute my ideas, I'm not simply like going to quit debate because I was regularly bottom tabbing. As I already explained earlier, this is like going to be the perception of yourself, so you're still going to enjoy debate and participate in debate to the extent that you are able to access the benefits that you want to access, being that improvement in your ability to come up with ideas and being able to engage in the community that you want. So what then, I think one of the main things that we get from this is you're going to be able to more likely able to go to tournaments and better opportunities if you are a weaker debater at a stronger school. Firstly, I think regarding like opportunity and ability for growth, there's more chance that you will have better training opportunities at a stronger school, and this is because they have the member capacity to actually like choose directors of training that will then are very qualified, and people voted for them because they knew, oh, they're going to be very open to new novice speakers, so they're going to be welcoming, and they're going to be able to actually like encourage people. As a director of training, or like when you have competition for the role of director of training, you're going to choose people who then are very like empathetic probably and are able to actually have the traits of a director of training that you'd want to have to cultivate joy of debate in the new members that you have and in the already existing members. So in this way, just because you are a weak debater doesn't mean you're going to be like shunned out by your community. Rather, you'll be more welcomed and welcome to the same extent as other people, because these trainings, the directors of trainings themselves are going to be like qualified to actually encourage you and foster your growth of debate. And because this is like a larger school, these directors probably also have more experience and understand what it's like and what is required of weaker debaters to actually improve, and which parts of their debating can improve, which you are less likely to get as a strong debater as a weak school. One, because you are already a strong debater and the other debaters around you are not able to engage, come up with as competitive cases, so then you kind of reach a ceiling for improvement in that way. The other thing that there is that you have more funding because the debate society is more established. So what this means is they're more likely to host tournaments, and tournaments are likely to give the society more funding, and they're more likely to reach out for sponsorships because of the fact that they have a large quantity of members and they need to be able to continue having the club. What this means is that you're more able to access tournaments because the cost is probably subsidized, right? If I know that each tournament I'll go to is maybe $200, $300, counting the cost of travel, registration, food, and hotels, I'm more likely to set a certain cap for myself of debates because I'm like, okay, this year I want to spend no more than $800 on debate, for example, right? Or have even if we don't set a explicit cap, a more implicit thought in my head about okay, if I'm on the edge of deciding to go on a tournament or not go, then I'm probably going to err on the side of going or not going if I know it's going to be expensive and tight on my finances. Rather, what you get in a more established society with more funding is that you cut this down probably significantly because they'll cover or subsidize registration costs, hotels, and transport. So then it's probably almost going to be half the cost because probably $100 or $150 now, and you're more able to access tournaments because you no longer have the block in your head, okay, I'm only going to go to this many tournaments because of funding. You're also more likely to be able to learn from other strong debaters at your school, even if you yourself will not ever be able to reach that level. And then we'll talk about the community aspect. Thank you.
Alright, I will begin my time now. Okay, so I'd like to talk a bit more about what are the advantages on our side of being a strong debater, in general, whether you're at a strong school or a weak school. So first of all, if you're at a weak school, there are still learning opportunities and opportunities for growth for you on our side of the house too. Because one of the best ways for you to get better at something is for you to teach it and explain it to someone else. And if you are a really strong debater in a generally weak debate club, then you are most likely going to be the one who's doing that, who's explaining how do you mechanize, how do you impact, and how do you weigh, and all of this stuff. And just teaching is going to improve your growth, and seeing how people how the rest of your club is making mistakes and doing things wrong is gonna help you identify what your areas of improvement are still. So it is not that you can't improve if you're in a weaker debate club. Also, they mentioned a lot about you may not have as much access to tournaments. That may be true, but there's always things like online tournaments. So even if your club doesn't necessarily have the financial means or enough capacity to be able to send people off to debate tournaments, that if you are a really good debater, you are going to find a way to debate anyway, and you're going to find a way to improve your skills regardless of what the funding situation looks like at your club. And online tournaments are an easy, accessible way to do that. Alright, and then next I'd like to go into why, just on our side of the house, being a stronger debater is advantageous to you in other areas outside of just debate club. So if you are a strong debater, that means you have you understand arguments really well. You have really good logical reasoning skills. You probably also are keeping up with the news because this is also something that lots of good debaters do, where they're informed, and they know what's going on in the world. You have good public speaking skills. You are probably more eloquent in your speeches. You're convincing. You're persuasive. And you are able to identify holes in arguments. You're able to analyze when something is true, when something is not true, when there's a likelihood problem. And these kinds of skills that a pro or really strong debater has, these are applicable widely outside of debate to say even in your education, when you are trying to learn things, when you're trying to think about why is something true. It's applicable in your networking, when you are interacting with other people, when you need to recruit someone for some sort of project that you're doing, or you want to convince someone why should they hire you. And even in your job, just when you're communicating in general, which is widely applicable to almost any job that you can do. And if you're, sure, yeah, POI.
Don't you think the extent to which you can get good at debate, its application to the outside world is pretty minimal? If I'm going to a job interview, I can only be so good at arguing to a point where it's not helpful anymore.
Well, yes, like the being good at arguing isn't going to like just automatically like get you a job if you don't have the background skills. But what I'm saying here is that it's a huge advantage for you. And being good at debate is widely applicable, and it gives you advantage in other areas of your life. And if you're a weak debater, then you're not necessarily going to have these skills. And so just outside of the debate setting, you are in a better position if you are a strong debater, even if you are at a weaker school. Okay, and then, yeah. Yeah, and then also on like the social aspects of a debate club and that point that government brought up. So I would argue that you know, just because your club is smaller and it hasn't been around as long, it doesn't mean that you're going to be like not being as socially fulfilled by the club as well there. In fact, even if you're in a smaller club, it could be even more more socially helpful for you, because you know it's not new faces all the time. You get to see more of the same people because it's just a few of you. You can know everyone in the club, and what this is going to do is it's going to make it more tight knit, and you can build now stronger relationships with the people who are in your club, as opposed to like if it's a bigger club and you're having like so many people, and you know it's dropping, people don't always show up all the time, and you're just debating like with different people all the time. And so being at the smaller school is going to be beneficial, because now that it's a smaller club, you can now form stronger relationships, because you get to know the people better, because you spend more time like with just the same people, and this is going to facilitate like your relationships. And so even if like all your friends are not the strongest debaters, debate isn't the only way that like we as a debate club will connect socially, right? Like in the hallway when we're waiting for the RFDs, it's like, you know, who knows the conversations that go on. They're certainly not always focused on the topic of the debate. And our debate clubs, we do things with each other outside of just debating. Like I know there's the D&D club going on. We're all friends with each other outside of just the shared interest of debate. Yes, this is the thing that initially connects us, but it is not the thing that is tying us together and like just defining our friendship completely. So just to summarize, on our side of the house, the elements that come with being a strong debater outweigh the fact that yes, we are at a weaker school, and that's not always as accessible for improvement and tournaments. And I believe I proved why our social impacts are symmetrical. Thank you.
All right, my time will begin in 3, 2, 1. All right, a lot of things to go through. Let's just kind of start with Clash. First, on side opposition, they tell you the idea that by teaching, you're going to be a better person at learning debate. The idea that as a stronger debater, teaching to others somehow will magically make you a better debater. I have a few responses. One, at best, this is pretty symmetric, right? We've provided you already mechanisms on why you're going to be learning quite well on our side of the house because you have better trainers. So at best, it's like, okay, you're teaching and you're learning, this is symmetric. But I'm going to tell you why it's not as symmetric as it seems. Because I think teaching is a far worse way of learning debate. And there's one key reason. You can only teach as far as you can exposit information, right? Like, I can't teach and magically develop new ideas on debate. I teach what I know. I don't teach and then learn something in addition to that, right? This is critically important here because as the new debater or as the weaker debater at a stronger school, you're far more likely to learn a far greater amount of knowledge because you're interacting with stronger debaters who have stronger ideas and more interesting trainers, right? The comparative here is on the other side. As a stronger debater, you can only exposit the information. I'm not gaining much besides the regional tournaments I'm getting, so I'm gaining far worse on their side of the house versus on our side of the house, right? Second, they talk about the idea that like, oh, you can still go to online tournaments and like that's like a substitute for those bigger ones. I think there's a pretty easy clash with this. I think almost all of you would agree with me that online tournaments are just objectively worse than in-person expensive ones, right? There's a few reasons for this, right? First, recognize that online tournaments, by the fact that they're online, reduces the community aspect like tenfold, right? You don't get those in-person socials with one another, where we're playing laser tag with one another. Instead, you have to like play, I don't know, like online video games. I think that's a far worse way of socializing than the in-person relationship with in-person tournaments. So that already reduces the sociability. But two, recognize the fact that like online tournaments lacking the face-to-face connection means I'm not really interacting with new people as much. I'm not going to form as like greater, deeper bonds with other people, maybe the other friendships, because I'm only talking with them in debate, right? I think for all these reasons, it's pretty obvious why online tournaments are worse, and that like at best our side is basically substituting online tournaments for our side, right? For like our way better in-person tournaments, right? Okay, next, let's talk about the idea that like being a strong debater, you're going to be informed about the world, you're going to be more successful in the world, and that's what you should prefer. I have a few responses to this. As I stated in my POI, it's only so helpful to be good at debate, and at some point it would almost hurt your chances, right? Like, at some point, I don't need to be like a master at speaking to the level of like a president like Obama to like be getting a job interview at like Starbucks, for example, right? It's only so helpful. And in addition, this isn't like an exclusive thing, right? Like, debate isn't the only mechanism for you to become good at public speaking. You can go to like Toastmasters, you can go to other things. This doesn't necessarily mean on their side of the house this is the only way to get good at public speaking. But three, recognize the fact that like being a good debater can at some point hurt your chances, right? If you're so good at debate, at some point it changes the way you think. And this is pretty intuitive. I'm thinking constantly in context of how I can refute and counter-refute. I'm going to probably think about things outside of debate because I'm just so ingrained into me. This means once I go into like outside of the debate realm, maybe I'm going to like a job interview, or I'm doing the MCAT, I'm going to be like answering the questions in a more argumentative format instead of a more general one, which is what they prefer in the outside world, right? There's some instances where you shouldn't be arguing with people because they want to have a conversation, not a debate, right? So I think for all these reasons, a stronger debater isn't necessarily better, right? It just is inherently, it only helps you insofar. And I think our weaker debater, as my Bhuvi pretty correctly mechanized, still has a lot of debate skills they're gaining and learning. They're not going to be like a terrible public speaker just because they're weaker in reference to everyone else around them, right? Okay, first, finally, okay, I'll take that POI, sure.
Why am I unable to like compartmentalize? Like, why am I likely to like argue with like my interviewer, like as an employer, just because I'm like
right. The point I'm making here is a higher chance to statistically happen. Like, yeah, people can compartmentalize, but the point I'm trying to make here is if you're stronger at debate, it just changes the way you fundamentally think. And I think this is intuitive. All of you have probably done debate. You've probably thought about things differently in the world because you've done debate. And this means even just subliminally, you're probably going to think about it in context of debate because you're so good and strong at it, because you focus so much on it, right? Okay, next, going to the idea of like a smaller tight community being better than a bigger one. I'm going to clash with this in two ways. First here, and then also with our extension that I'm going to talk about. First, the idea that like smaller being like better, right? At best, this is pretty symmetric, symmetric, right? Because like, okay, so I have a smaller community with my friends, or I have the bigger community with my friends. What's the difference? I'll tell you the difference and why it's in our favor. The difference here is that a smaller community doesn't have a lot of the necessary things to make it inviting and to make it a better place. For example, on our side of the house, we have the unique mechanism of having the more stronger traders who are probably going to be an inviting space because they know that a stronger school wants more people. So the trainers are going to be trained to be like teaching you better and to make you want to participate at debate regularly. But two, recognize the fact that a smaller circle means that drama is more impactful, right? If I have a small debate circle and there's one person in that debate circle who I don't like, that's a huge ramification because now there's like fewer people that I can talk to. I can't like isolate that person for my rest of my debate club experience. The comparative here on the larger school, as like they just bought the fact that it's a larger school, is that in a larger school, you have a large amount of group of people. Say there's like 3 people you don't like, you can have your own social circle who like it's completely separate, right? This is a unique benefit we got on our side of the house, while on their side, drama is inherently damaging and harmful. But 3, recognize the fact that you aren't going to be spending as much time together because you're having less social events. A larger school means less socials, it means less time together, it means less times going to tournaments, meaning you're probably not going to care about the other people in your debate club nearly as much as you would in the larger school, right? And this is pretty significant because it means you're not going to be spending more time together. It's probably going to be like your once a week thing or your once a month thing that you go to. You go, cool, that was a neat debate, and then you leave because you have better things to do. You haven't spent as much time with them to really build that rapport. And so here's your other point that you're going to spend time outside of debate socializing with them, because if I don't have a connection with you already, why would I like socialize with you outside of debate, right? That's things that only happen on our side. And I'll further that with my like unique extension on the communities, right? Okay, so recognize the fact that like a bigger, larger school has like a lot of benefits that come with it that we haven't mentioned yet. Like, one, the fact that the club is just inherently probably going to have more socials, which is going to drive engagement, and that's for a few reasons. One, recognize the fact that there's a higher frequency of socials means I'm going to have a higher amount of interactions with people, right? Like if I'm spending more time with people, I'm probably going to build a better rapport because we have just like better inside jokes. We spent more time having random moments, right? It's pretty intuitive. But 2, recognize the fact that I'm having a higher quality of socials because I have more funding. So instead of like playing like some random like board game, maybe I'm going to go to like a cool like trampoline park or laser tag, or I'm going to go to something even bigger, right? That gives better quality of socials, meaning it's more likely to kind of buy me back in to spend more time with these people. That means as a weaker debater, I'm going to have a much more impactful time at this larger community, right? 3, recognize the fact that the larger size also just means you have a larger pool of friends to pull from, right? Like if I have 5 people to pull from and I only like 3 of them, that's probably not as helpful as if I have like 20 or like 50 people and I'm going to form my own social circle. Recognize this. I'm not saying that like you're going to make friends with everyone in your large debate society. The point I'm making here is there's a higher chance you can make friends with a few of them and make your own social circle, right? It's just statistically a larger chance to happen, right? It makes sense, right? But 3, recognize the fact that there's a unique benefit because you are a weaker debater, right? Being a weaker debater, we're going to argue on our side, makes you more likely to have a better relationship with other people. And there's a few reasons for this. 1, recognize the fact that you're a weaker debater probably means that you're likely to like do meme rounds or do more fun motions than CP because you're probably going to realize halfway through the tournament that you're losing. Now, I'm not saying here on our side that you're like going to throw the tournament from the start. My point is that you're going to have more fun motions because you're not trying as hard, that'll have more interesting rounds. You're still going to try those fun motions. And I think that's going to build better rapport with other people because people like fun motions in debate, right? I think you all have like a fun and unique experience with that. But 2, recognize the fact that you're a fun and like, a weaker debater probably means you're not going to argue with RFD with the judges as much. You're not going to argue with the other debaters what you should have won, meaning you're probably going to build better social rapport with them, and you're going to build better connections not only within the tournament, but also within the circle, but also without. And finally, recognize the fact that you're also going to more tournaments because you're going to build better outside connections because they're subsidizing you more. For all these reasons, so proud to propose on side government.
I'm going to mainly do some clash, and then I'm going to rebuild some of my parents' points. Okay, so let's start with some of the kind of main arguments and pushes that we get out of government, right? The first thing that Prime Minister tells us, right, is that debaters, like some kind of, they get used to their position, right? Strong and weak debaters. Like if a weak debater is like in bin rooms all the time, well, it's okay because we just get used to it and we're not disappointed. I would like to push against this. Let's start first with the example of a strong debater. Let's just because I may expect to break tournaments, that doesn't mean I'm not going to feel rewarded when I win a tournament or even make finals at a tournament. Remember, we're a strong debater. We're not a quantum debater. We can't expect to win every time, and we're eventually going to be faced against opponents on our level and higher, whether you're doing online tournaments or in person, which I'll cover later. And now let's look at the opposite example. Let's look at a weaker debater. Just because I'm used to being in bin rooms, I'm expecting to be in a bin room. This doesn't really make me feel much better about myself. If anything, it just ingrains the fact that I'm at the bottom of my club ladder. Yes, the average quality in our debaters within our schools are going to be higher. But, you know, as a debater, we're really kind of just comparing ourselves to what we know, what we see every week, which is the people in our club. I'm going to also add, if I'm like doing garbage like every time, right? Like how am I like comparing myself to like my other like performances, as like Goud suggests? Like if I'm just in bin rooms every time, like what is there to compare myself to? Okay, next let's push against the community aspect, right? Better community of debate in strong schools. Okay, 2 main pushes for this. The first one was already covered by Kaylee, right? In a small school, we have a tight-knit community. I actually get to know everyone in my debate community on a personal level, get to know them. In larger schools, I don't get to know everyone you know, in my debate community. Maybe I'll get to know a few of them, but I also add, one of the main ways in which relationships are developed in debate club is through tournaments. As a weaker player, we're not as in kind of logically we're going to be going to less tournaments. Maybe we go to a couple in our hometown. I think this is quite logical, as we're not going to, you know, we know we're not going to perform as well. And ultimately this weighs over, you know, whatever financial like subsidies we might get on government side of the house. There's also another unique aspect I want to add of what we get in strong schools that makes community weaker, which is kind of like these more kind of inner circles or like inner kind of lingo that can develop among strong debaters. Right? I'll take POIs in a minute. Right? And we're not saying that like strong debaters are gonna like look down like upon weak debaters. We're not saying that at all. But we're saying even like unintentionally, it can kind of, the strong debate clubs can kind of create an atmosphere as for a weaker debater, we either feel like left out or that we're not enough. When I hear things like matter dumping and epistemic access as a weak debater, I may feel like I'm out of the loop. Even if I know what this means, it still makes me feel like, you know, this is kind of like the jokes are these like inside terms and like lingo are for the pro debaters, and I can't really like utilize these or like kind of make it my own to like any meaningful access. I'll take the PI now.
Right. If I'm being paid 90% to go to Montreal, regardless of whether I'm going to McGill, why would I not go as a weaker debater?
Okay, well, I see no mech as to why we're like being paid 90% of like our subsidy to be going to Montreal. But I also want to say, even if we are like, you know, even though the tournaments are cheaper, here's my counteraction to this. As a strong debater, right, in our counterfactual, yes, we do have to pay more money, but as a strong debater, we're also more incentivized. As a strong debater, we don't really care what the price of the tournament is. We're going to go to them. We're going to go to all of them anyways because we enjoy the tournaments and we enjoy the increased enrichment that comes as a result of this. Let's see. Oh yes. Okay. Next, the last point I want to add, which is like kind of this brief extension on what Kaylee said about like you can do like online tournaments. Also, which I will address as well. But there's also like even without like the tournaments, you can still like every week I can just go on the connection server. I can debate against like these really good Eastern debaters and like actually improve my skills. And like I don't. This doesn't need to specifically be in person. I do kind of see that they can maybe have some unique kind of benefits in person, but I also gonna in the strong school. But I'm also gonna give you with my extension some unique things that you get in the smaller school that you wouldn't otherwise get. Okay, so let's move now onto my main extension. This is the enrichment of kind of being a mentor figure, right, in your smaller debate community, and also just in general like building up a community. And this is important for really extremely rewarding for multiple reasons. We tell you that as a strong, passionate debater, this is most likely to happen. You have a vested interest in getting other people interested in debate, in getting people improving on debate, and in building up your club. You know, Kaylee tells you that you might run meetings, training meetings, which can be enriching in their own way. And even if you buy the Gov's case that it might not necessarily improve your debate skills, we can believe that it does certainly improve other aspects of skills. Remember, one of the main pushes from Gov, right, is like this idea of like with this debate mindset, we're not going to be, as good in like the real world or like jobs or interviews. Like I'm telling you that like this idea of like becoming a role model, like a leader figure, like building your club from the ground up, this really completely counteracts all of this. I also want to add that as the strong debater, oh yes, just in general being a debater doesn't even have to be a strong debater. We believe that the positives of like getting debate far outweigh like this only kind of like maybe risk of like us becoming more argumentative. We tell you that what you definitely get when you're a debater is you become a stronger public speaker. You're able to speak better in front of others. You become less shy. You're able to perform better in interviews. You're more likely to get jobs. There's so many reasons that growing as a debater vastly outweighs whatever harms that side government gives you. Okay, what do I want to leave you with today? First of all, I flip the points on community of debate, that debaters get used to their position. I give you, kind of extend on my partner's points, giving you some of the unique things that we get from small schools that we don't get. We get, not just in, like, outside of like how we are as debate, we get this kind of enrichment that can't get us anywhere, that will help us for the rest of our life to come, not just in debate tournaments. So proud to oppose.
So just first of all, to flash out and summarize what Gov gives us. So they tell us that if you're the weak debater at the strong school, there's more opportunity for skill improvement, there are social incentives, and more financial opportunities. Why do we clash these things out? So we tell you that there are still opportunities for skill improvements through teaching in weaker debaters and learning that way, and that if you are a strong debater, you have a stake to improve yourself, and you still can improve yourself, like through going to online tournaments. You can still access these things. There are resources online, and that you will still improve because you are a good debater and you want to. On social incentives, we explained to you why although the social flow in the debate societies is different, ours gives a very unique and like intimate and family connection feeling that you can have with the rest of your debate club. So this is symmetrical on both sides. in terms of financial opportunities, my partner explains how if you are a weak debater, you won't necessarily be going to all those big tournaments because you're not that good, you're not going to win. It's not always worth it for you to spend your weekend doing that. And it's not necessarily going to be financially better for you because we forget that lots of financial subsidies are like based on your point count and how well you actually perform. If you're a weak debater, why are you getting these subsidies? Whereas in our club, even though there are not as many opportunities to go to tournaments and not as many subsidies, if you're the strong debater, you're getting those financial subsidies that are competitive over anyone else in your debate club. And then, so now to remind you of our constructive over here. So we tell you that on our side of the house, the skills that you have as a good debater are so important in the rest of your life that this should be outweighed over being a weak debater in the stronger school. And that is because the exact kind of soft skills that I explained to you that we develop in debate, like public speaking, critical thinking, logical reasoning, all of these are exactly what like employers look for. And if you are a weak debater, you are unlikely to be as good at these things, because if you were better at them, you would be scoring higher in your debate tournaments. So it is highly unlikely that you have even near the same degree of these skills if you're a weak debater as if you are a strong one. And that is super important just to your life in general, outside in terms of the opportunities that you will have. And so we believe that we outweigh the government on that side and have sufficiently clashed out their points so proud to oppose.
Okay, I'm going to start with clashing with the positive content that side opposition gives you. The first thing they tell you is that if you're a strong debater, then you probably keep up with the news, you're good at public speaking, and these are all skills, and you're going to gain skills that are very applicable outside of debate, like at interviews, and you're going to be less shy of things. The issue with this is that this is very much not exclusive to being good at debate. Actually, the majority of people in debate would probably the majority of people outside of debate are still doing all of these jobs. They still do well in interviews, aren't shy, are still persuasive without being a good debater, right? And these people, if they did debate, would probably suck. They would probably be a weak debater if they were like this weak debater that we're talking about in a small school. And this is because debate is more of like a game that doesn't necessarily develop, especially at the higher level, applications outside of debate. Just because I'm a very strong debater doesn't mean I'm a strong job applicant, because the way I debate and the skills that they're trying to convince you are applicable outside of debate are very much not the same. Like trying to figure out building a case and more mechanisms, you never need to do that in the real world. The best advantage outside of this is that you're better at analyzing news articles and persuasive opinion papers, and this has very little value in terms of actually getting a job. And even weak debaters aren't shy people. Debaters are still very outwards and they're not shy and lacking all of these skills outside of the debate environment. Debate is very much isolated, and so these skills don't necessarily transfer. They also tell you that as a weak debater, you probably don't have these skills because otherwise you would be scoring higher. I think this is very odd, because weak debaters are good at things outside of debate settings. They are able to get internships, get co-ops, get jobs. We're university students, we're doing business, all of these things. This is very much this positive constructive they give you is absolutely not applicable. The next thing about this, they talk about very briefly about expecting to be in a bin room and doing garbage every time because you only compare yourself to other performances that you know in your own circle. I think what they fail in this is that they don't actually tell you the impact that this will have on your mental health or your engagement in debate. All they tell you is oh, you might feel a little bad that you're always in a bin room, but I really don't think that they actually mechanize the reasons why this is important to you and your ability to debate, because what we tell you that your incentives as a debater are improving in debate, engaging in debate, and finding community. At this point doesn't actually address this, and they didn't tell you any other incentives that you have as a debater. The last positive constructive thing they tell you is that you have an interest in taking leadership positions in debate and build it from the ground up. I don't actually think they tell you why, as any person, I simply want this. I don't think there's any mech about why I care about building the club up by being a strong debater, rather than just being a weak debater at an already established tool because of the incentives that we tell you that you care about as the debater. Moving on to some specific clash about the things they try to symmetricize from our side of the debate. One of the things that, like, even at a weak school, you have learning opportunities, and that one of the best ways to like get better at something is to explain it to someone else. I think for one, at a weaker school, probably other members are less committed to debate, which is why it's not like a more robust school in the first place, so you have less opportunity to do this in the first place. The next thing is, like Ben addressed this, is that you get better at debating by debating because you don't have that ceiling anymore. And there's also like no mech on why you're likely to spend time in this educational position or why you would be good at training in the first place. The next part about like online tournaments, so then you still have the same opportunities. This is very much not symmetric because online tournaments are just sad. I'm sitting in my room debating rather than like debating in a room with all of the people here, right? We also enjoy in-person tournaments more because we're able to access like the community aspect, and we're able to get better feedback because you can go up to the judge easily and ask feedback rather than in an online tournament where you have to individually message. The next thing about like if your friends aren't strong debaters, you'll still connect socially. This is very much not exclusive to weaker schools. Even if I'm at a strong school, you're going to access all of the same community benefits and probably to a stronger extent, as Ben was telling you in his speech. The next part about like you go to less tournaments because you know you won't perform as well. Rather, you're going to go to debates just to engage in the social and intellectual sport. You engage into debate to the extent that you want to engage in debate in that aspect and not simply the competitive aspect of debate as you would do as a strong debater, potentially. So for these reasons, we tell you that you're going to be able to get better opportunities and better social connections as a weaker debater and a stronger.